A very warm welcome to or welcome back to my channel. In this video, I would like to talk to you about something of a reasonably serious issue and something of a rather personal issue. Something that I've never really had a problem with, but many people do. And if you haven't figured it out already, it's the somewhat elephant in the room. And elephant in lots of rooms when someone who has either gone bald or suffered with alopecia is in a room and is quite aware of the fact that they've lost hair. And this may or may not come up in conversation. It may or may not come up in jokes. You may or may not be the subject of those jokes. You may or may not be the subject of ridicule. But the point and the reason that I raise it is this, because it came to sort of public awareness prominently just recently with the Oscars, and Jada Pinkett Smith, of course, with the Chris Rock joke, which Will Smith didn't take kindly to, but obviously all surrounding the condition of alopecia. Now, interestingly enough, alopecia is the broad term for hair loss. But when it occurs in men, it's normally referred to as male pattern baldness, as opposed to alopecia. Whereas if it seems to be a sudden and random thing, or certainly if it occurs in women, it is usually referred to as alopecia. Now, looking at medlineplus.gov, which I believe is part of the US Department for Health and Human Services, it describes alopecia as androgenetic alopecia, as a common form of hair loss in both men and women, and in men referring to it as male pattern baldness. But my point is this: not only is hair loss or baldness referred to differently, typically at least, between men and women, but also I notice that if it's men, it's normally taken to be just part of the norm. Some men suffer with baldness, and in large part it might be hereditary, but it might also be as a result of other things. And therefore it seems to be something of a norm, a normality, something that most people should just end up living with if they do end up going bald or even just losing some hair. Now, for me, there's a mixed bag, because elephant in the room, like I say, I've got no problem talking about it. I'm not shy about it. I'm not ashamed of it or anything like that. And I don't care about jokes and all that sort of stuff. I've heard them all before. But for me, there's a mixture, in case anyone was wondering. There's a mixture of things. So first of all, my late father, did start to lose his hair. He didn't go completely bald, but he started to lose his hair. But also many years ago, I was changing the colour of just the top portion of my hair at a salon, and they messed it up, frankly, and burnt my head. So front to back, the whole of my head was burnt. And after that, it never really grew back properly. And so I decided, well, I don't want to be thin in the middle and normal around the outsides, which is probably what it would be. It would grow normally. In fact, it does grow normally around the outsides, and I constantly have to shave it. And so I decided that would be my style. I'll cut it all off, and I'm not going to be thin in the middle. So it was actually partly a conscious choice as well. And funnily enough, I was browsing on social media just recently, actually interested in a new shaver, because obviously I just use a normal shaver, like a face shaver, to shave all of my head. And so just recently I was looking at these things, and obviously the algorithms found me. And so this is a bit of an odd sponsored video. It's not sponsored in the sense that they sent me money. They didn't send me money, but I commented on a product, which was this one here. And this is the Pitbull Platinum Pro shaver, which is designed for people like me. So it is literally designed for someone to shave their head as they've chosen to do. So they sent me one of these and asked me if I would mention it in a video. So I have, and I'm actually going to show you using it in a minute, for the sole purpose. And the important reason is this, because when someone does have some form of alopecia or baldness or whatever you choose to call it, whether it's male or female, I think there should be an equal treatment for anyone affected by this. And I don't say suffer because I don't feel like I suffer with it. Some people do feel like they suffer with it. And I think most men that have either gone this way or chosen, at least in part, to go this way, maybe don't feel like they suffer with it. I certainly don't, but I know many people do. And if it is a condition that they didn't choose, I mean, I didn't choose this to begin with. I chose it after a while when I saw that they'd burnt my head and then it wasn't really growing back, and then possibly it got worse with age because my late father was losing his hair at the time as well. So in part I chose this, but most people don't choose it. But I think there should be an equal treatment for anyone who has had the condition or had any type of condition like this that could equally affect men or women. But it seems to be more normal. And even as I say, it shouldn't be more normal, but even as I say it, it's more normal for men to lose their hair and to be referred to as male pattern baldness, as opposed to they suffer with alopecia, which is in fact what it is. It is a form of alopecia. Going back to the website again, androgenetic alopecia in men, associated with other conditions as well, blah, blah, blah. So there may be lots of other conditions that it's associated to. For me, I don't think it is. I think it's just they burnt my head and I was probably going to go a bit thin anyway. As I said, my father went a bit thin. But I just wanted to make this video because I think it is important for people to talk about issues that might be serious instead of stay quiet about them. And in some sense as well, I think that's why comedy is important, and why when jokes are made about certain things, as Ricky Gervais says, don't confuse the subject and the object of the joke. Because sometimes, as he says, to make a joke about something is to draw attention to it, but not to attack the person, and almost just to make it something to share and discuss. And if you can find humor in it, then it might ironically help the situation. Far too many people stay quiet about them, as opposed to facing it head on and tackling it head on, dealing with it, talking about it, sharing it, and then suddenly it's not something to suffer anymore. It's a condition, and it's not one that you'd perhaps choose. But without talking about it, it doesn't become something that everybody shares and helps to deal with. And so, as I said, it doesn't bother me, but it might bother lots of people. So I'm going to show you, in the spirit of not hiding it and not letting it bother me, I'm going to show you using this, and not just because Pitbull, not just because you gave it to me and sent it to me. And it looks quite cool as well, by the way. It looks very well made, and I'm sure it's going to be great. But not just because you sent it to me for that purpose. And I hope that it has, I hope you sending me this and me making the video has a much deeper, wider, purposeful meaning than just sending me this to promote the product. So with that, I'll leave you with this.